Today we're finally talking about my favorite of the three Sinnoh starters, Torterra. Torterra has great stats across the board, especially for a starter Pokemon, and it might be partially because of childhood nostalgia, but I really want to see this thing do well in Regulation E. It has 95 HP, 109 attack, 105 defense, 75 special attack, 85 special defense, and 56 speed. So overall, it has great physical bulk with that 95 HP and the 105 defense, and the 85 special defense isn't too bad either with that 95 HP. It also has the potential to hit things relatively hard with that 109 attack, and when you look at the 56 speed, you might think that it is kind of slow and you might want to run Trick Room, but there is an alternative to that now because Scarlet and Violet has been incredibly kind to Torterra, and it gained access to not only Trailblaze, which can increase its speed one stage while doing damage, but it also gained access to Shell Smash finally, which means Torterra can lower its defense and special defense one stage to sharply increase its attack, special attack, and speed all by two stages. That can be relatively handy for flipping a matchup. Now, when your opponent might think Torterra is going to be slow because it's a turtle, or technically a tortoise, I don't know the difference. I'm not an expert on reptiles, but anyways, they might think it's slow. Torterra might prove them wrong with that Shell Smash. On top of that, let's talk about Torterra's abilities. So, with it being a grass type starter, its first default ability is Overgrow. So, when Torterra hits a third of its max HP, its grass type attacks are going to gain a 50% power boost. Its hidden ability is Shell Armor, which means it cannot take a critical hit. That can be relatively handy on bulky, tanky Pokemon like Torterra. So as far as Torterra's typing goes, it is a grass ground type, which unfortunately doesn't quite synergize the best with Torterra's great bulky stats. We do have an immunity to the electric type, but we only have two resistances to ground and rock, while being weak to fire, bug, and flying, and having one glaring 4 times weakness to ice. That said, grass and ground are excellent stab types. If you pair them with a rock type coverage move, you can hit most of the metagame for major damage if done correctly. And to be honest, Torterra has plenty of great Tera options at its disposal to not only boost its bulk, but to also increase its firepower while gaining some various effects. So if we wanted to, we could go either Tera Grass or Ground to double our stab. If we go Tera Grass, we're also going to become immune to powder moves such as Spore, which could be pretty handy. If we go Tera Fire, we're immune to burns. We don't have to worry about our physical damage being lowered by getting burned. That could be relatively nice for Torterra's 109 attack stat. If we go Poison, we don't have to worry about being toxic and whittled down over time, which that is a big problem for bulky, tanky Pokemon, is if they get toxic, they get worn down over time and will eventually faint. If you wanted to, you could go for a 50% special defense boost on a sand team by going Tera Rock and pairing Torterra with either a Hippowdon or a Tyranitar since they've set the sand. On the flip side, you could do the same for Ice and the physical defense boost in Snow by pairing Torterra with an Alolan Ninetales. And Alolan Ninetales is going to be huge in Regulation E because not only does it set the snow, but it also has the ability to set Auroraville relatively quickly, which means it's going to be reducing the amount of damage you take on both the physical and special side since it sets both Reflect and Light Screen in one go. That's going to be huge. Then finally, we have Tera Dark. That'll give us immunity to Prankster's status moves. So if we're running a Shell Smash set, for example, we don't have to worry about Prankster Thunderwave slowing us down and then just undoing the speed boost that we went for with that Shell Smash. And Torterra doesn't have to worry about that stacking on top of having a defense drop from Shell Smash's drawback. That is a big, big thing to keep in mind. But at the end of the day, just remember this too. Any Tera will remove Torterra's 4 times weakness to ice, which is a huge way of getting around Torterra in the first place. So you get rid of that 4 times ice weakness and Torterra should be relatively fine. Our first set here is a nasty piece of art, if I do say so myself. And what it is here is it's body press, iron defense, amnesia, and leech seed. We are going to make Torterra as bulky as possible. We have 172 EVs into our HP to hit 192. We have an impish nature plus max investment into our defense to hit 172. And then the remaining 84 EVs are going into our special defense to hit 116. We have the shell armor to make sure that there's no extra bonus damage, ignoring any boosts to our defenses, doing more damage to us. And then we have the leftovers here to make sure that we get a little bit of HP back at the end of the turn. We get 1/16, which works out to be an even 12 points at 192 HP. So we're going to get that little bit of HP back. We don't have to worry about any decimals rounding down. We've got our HP optimized for this set. So basically here, body press uses the user's defense stat instead of the attack stat in the damage calculation, which is going to be handy because that synergizes with iron defense. Iron defense is going to increase our defense 2 stages each time we use it. So we're already sitting at 172. The very first time we use that, that's going to double. When we hit +4, we're going to be running at triple. And then finally, when we hit +6, we're going to be at quadruple right there. So Torterra is going to get extraordinarily bulky relatively quickly. We have amnesia to get around the weakness of Torterra's special defense by doing the same thing as iron defense, but on the special side. So basically right there, we're going to get extraordinarily bulky right here. And then finally, we have leech seed. So leech seed is going to give Torterra back a little bit of HP in addition to the leftovers, and it's going to take 1/8 of the target's HP. So if they're a relatively bulky Pokemon themselves, we're going to be getting a lot more HP back. That's going to be fun. And plus, leech seed is chipping away at them. So unfortunately, the one big weakness to this is the ghost type, because obviously they are just outright immune to body press, but that's what Torterra's partners are for. And plus, we can easily bring in Alolan Ninetales to go for that Aurora Veil. We could also go Charm if we wanted to. Charm lowers the target's physical attack 2 stages, so we could easily use Alolan Ninetales to make the opponent hit like a wet noodle. So that's definitely a thing as well that we can easily do. We'll get back more HP with the leech seed. We'll have the shell armor protecting us from critical hits. If we have Aurora Veil set up, perfect. And then finally, to wrap it all up in a nice little bow, we have Tera Poison to make sure that we don't get toxicked. I told you it was a nasty piece of art here. Alternatively, you could run Tera Steel, but on the off chance that you run into a Garganacl, their Salt Cure will do more damage over time to a Steel type, so that's why we're running Poison. It's a fun set. Anyways, let's talk about the next idea. All right, with this second set here, we are going to go turbo with this turtle. We're going to put some hustle to the muscle and become the master of faster with Torterra, which is still a really weird concept to me, but hey, it's finally time to talk Shell Smash. So basically here, what we're going to do is we're going to go -1 into each of our defenses with this move, but we're going to go +2 into our attack, special attack, and speed. So as far as the EV breakdown goes, we're going to take a Jolly Nature and 212 EVs into our speed to hit 113 points. This will allow us to outpace Pokemon that have a base speed of 150 with a beneficial nature. So for context, that allows us to hit over 222 points. We are going to be outpacing Electrode and Calyrex Shadow Rider, and basically anything that is naturally slower than them without any speed boosts. That's wild. Now, keep in mind, we're still going to be slower than the likes of Regieleki and then Booster Energy, Iron Bundle, and Fluttermane, but we're going to be outpacing a lot of things right there. We have max investment into our attack stat to hit 161 to make sure that we are doing good damage to the opponent. And then as far as the remaining EVs go, you might be wondering, why didn't I just go 252, 252? And that's because we are running 3 attacking moves in conjunction with Shell Smash. So we're going to need a tiny little bit of bulk right here to help live and make sure that we set up the initial Shell Smash, and we're going to have to rely on our partner Pokemon for Torterra. What I was thinking is we could use some screen support, which we could use Alola Ninetales, for example. We could use Auroraville that way. We could use Screamtail with a booster energy. If our opponent has primarily physical Pokemon on the field, we could go for Reflect. If they have primarily special, we could go for Light Screen. Additionally to Sableye has access to Prankster Screens. So does Grimmsnarl, so does Klefki. You could use that. If you already had a screen set up, Ninetales gets Charm, so you could also lower the physical attack of a physical attacker 2 stages right there. We could go for some redirection support with something like, say, Mousehold, which is relatively nice because it has Friend Guard in addition to that, which means the partner Pokemon of Mousehold here is only going to take 3/4 of the damage anyways. Clefairy can also do this, and a nice thing about Clefairy is Clefairy can heal up Torterra with a Heal Pulse or a Life Dew as well. We could go for some Intimidate support with like Arcanine, naturally lower the attack stat of something, and then Arcanine could synergize nicely with the powered up Torterra by going for Howl and increasing Torterra's attack an extra stage. That's a thing right there. And here's the other thing. Why am I running 3 damaging moves as opposed to, say, Protect and 2 damaging moves in Shell Smash? And that's because of what the coverage of Grass, Rock, and Ground do together. When you have that combination, I punched this into PokemonDB.net, and this is what I got. Those numbers are really nice. Nothing is outright immune to this combination. If you think about it, Rock covers the flying types that resist the grass type coverage, and then Ground covers the steel types that resist both grass and rock. So that is a relatively nice thing. Grass hits ground types super effectively. Rock hits ice types super effectively. It's a wonderful combination. And in addition to that, what we can do is we have the loaded dice to take advantage of the fact that Bullet Seed and Rock Slide or Rock Blast are both multi-striking moves, meaning we're going to hit a minimum of 4 times as opposed to the default 2. If you didn't want to run Bullet Seed and Rock Blast, what you could do alternatively is you could run Trailblaze to further increase your speed to try to get around the likes of, say, Regieleki or Iron Bundle with a booster energy. You could also run, say, Wood Hammer so that you could just do an insane amount of damage with that base 120. You would be taking some recoil, but that's another thing. Does Torterra... I know they gave it Leaf Blade in Legends Arceus. Did they give it in Scarlet and Violet? No, they took that away. They were too nice there. But it does get Seed Bomb, so if you don't want to do recoil to yourself, you could run Seed Bomb instead at base 80. So you could do all that. If you wanted to run an alternative to Rock Blast, this thing does get access to Rock Slide and Rock Tomb. Rock Slide has great flinch odds. It's also a spread move, which is nice. And then Rock Tomb will slow down the target. It's a little bit weaker, but coming off a +2, it could still be nasty. And then an alternative to high horsepower, if you wanted to run something a little bit stronger, Torterra did get to keep Headlong Rush. So basically that's ground type close combat right there. And if you do take away the multi-striking moves, you don't have to worry about running the loaded dice. You could run a Clear Amulet to make yourself safe from Intimidate. That's definitely an option right there. Or you could run the White Herb. So basically, if you don't get your stats lowered by the time Shell Smash goes off, White Herb will reset the defense and special defense drops from the Shell Smash, which means Shell Armor is going to come in even more clutch because now you don't have to worry about the critical hits bypassing your neutral defenses as opposed to being softened up from your -1 into each defense from the Shell Smash. And if you run the White Herb and you really want to be greedy, you could go for a second Shell Smash. You could definitely do that. You could run the loaded dice, you could run a White Herb, you could run a Clear Amulet. that's definitely a solid thing. And what I was thinking here for our Tera options is we could go Tera Dark to make sure that we're immune to Prankster Thunderwave, so we don't have to worry about being slowed down and having basically our Shell Smash considered null and void on the speed front. But you could also run Tera Fire, and then that way you don't have to worry about getting burned. So alternatively to Shell Smash, what I was thinking for a third moveset is we're going to take advantage of the opposite end of the speed spectrum and get slower, and we're going to use Curse and Trick Room to invert the field. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab a 0 IV Torterra and a speed hindering nature to make sure that we only hit 54 points. That is relatively slow to begin with, and Curse is going to make us even slower by lowering our speed one stage each time we use it. It's also going to increase our attack and defense one stage once we use it as well. So as far as the EVs go, we can focus a little bit more into the specially defensive bulk at this point. So what I did here is I put 212 EVs into our HP to hit 197 and 196 EVs into the special defense to hit 130. With the remaining 100 EVs and a Brave Nature, we hit 156 attack because we want to make sure that we get a little extra bang for our buck when we go up with our curse boosts, and to make sure that we do a little bit more damage with our offensive moves. Now, alternatively, you could make the case for running a Sassy Nature instead of a Brave Nature, and that'll lower your attack from 156 to 142, while increasing your special defense from 130 to 143. But like I said, I do prefer the Brave Nature here because that way we're getting a little extra bang for our buck with our curse boosts. So what I was thinking for our damaging options here is we can have Woodhammer take advantage of the fact that it's a base 120 grass type stab move. Now this does have 33% recoil of the damage that's dealt, so you're going to be hitting things really hard with 1 or 2 curse boosts, so you're probably going to take a fair amount of recoil damage. But that's okay because we do have a Citrus Berry to heal us up a little bit. If we hit half our health, it'll give us a quarter of our HP back. So that is one alternative. Now, our other damaging move here that I was thinking is Rock Slide. Rock Slide will take advantage of the fact that it has really good flinch odds in Trick Room and then make our opponent not like the odds of whether or not they can attack or not, because we're hitting both Pokemon, which means we have a 30% chance of making each of them flinch. So that can be pretty handy at the end of the day. Now, on the flip side, you do have to be careful with this moveset of Woodhammer and Rock Slide because the Steel type does resist it. So if you wanted to, you could drop one of these two moves in favor of a ground type move. You could grab Earthquake instead, and Earthquake is a base 100 ground type attack that hits the entire field, so you could run that. Now, if you're not running a Telepathy Mon, or if you're worried about Wide Guard just nullifying that, you could run High Horsepower instead. It's a relatively handy single target ground type move. It's base 95 power, it still gets stabbed, so that is definitely an option for Torterra. But if you don't care about the defense boosts at all, you could run Headlong Rush instead, and then that way it's base 120 ground type stab right there. You are losing a stage to both your defense and your special defense, but you're going to be trampling many things with that Headlong Rush. And weirdly enough, if you look under Cerebi, Headlong Rush also comes up as a punching move, so just imagine Torterra trying to punch something with its head. So that's a thing. But I digress. You could run Headlong Rush, High Horsepower, or Earthquake if you want to get around the Steel type. Because what I was thinking here too is because we are setting up Trick Room, chances are we're probably going to want to have Protect to make sure that when the Trick Room turn happens, we're going to want to make sure Torterra is nice and healthy, and then go for a Curse and then do some damage. What I was thinking for a potential Trick Room setter to go next to Torterra, well, it could be Dusclops. Dusclops is nice and bulky. Once you put the Eviolite on there, it's naturally base 130 into each of its defenses, so it's getting a 50% boost from the Eviolite. Mimikyu would be another great option because Mimikyu has its disguise. If you put a Mental Herb on Mimikyu, you don't have to worry about taunt shutting down Mimikyu. You would have to double taunt into it to make sure that the Trick Room can't go up. And plus, the disguise will also make it so that Mimikyu won't get knocked out on the first hit it takes because the disguise will take the hit for the Mimikyu. So that was something I was mainly thinking of for that third set. We can have the Trick Room go up with either Dusclops or Mimikyu, both of which are also immune to Fake Out too, which is relatively handy. Torterra goes for Protect, Trick Room goes up, you can go for Curse, and then you can increase your defense and attack. And then on the following turn, if Torterra is still on the field, because you never know, you could take a bad special attack from something like, say, Chi-Yu. If it's still on the field, then you can just start wailing on things with either Wood Hammer, High Horsepower, Earthquake, Headlong Rush, Rock Slide. The possibilities are out there, that's for sure. Anyways, guys, that's what I was mainly thinking about for Torterra. It's definitely got 3 solid options in the Body Press Iron Defense set, the Shell Smash set, or Curse. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments below, and let's get the discussion going.